Deep in the heart of history lies a civilization that defied the impossible. We are looking at the Aztec Empire, a society of master engineers, fierce warriors, and profound spiritual depth. They built a shimmering metropolis on a lake, governed by the rhythms of the sun and the flow of blood. But their glory would face a cataclysmic collision with another world. In this episode, we journey through the engineering marvels of the city on the lake and witness the dramatic, bloody saga of the Spanish conquest. This is the story of how an empire rose from the swamp to touch the sky, only to be brought down in flames. To understand the Aztecs, we must first understand the land that forged them. This is the Valley of Mexico, a high-altitude haven. It is an elevated plateau ringed by towering mountains and volcanoes, centered around the shallow, salty waters of Lake Texcoco. It was here that a wandering tribe, the Mexica, finally stopped running. For generations, they roamed as nomads until they witnessed a sign foretold by their gods, a majestic eagle perched atop a cactus. This divine destination marked the spot where they would build the greatest empire Mesoamerica had ever seen. On that prophetic spot, in the year 1325 AD, they founded Tenochtitlan. It began on a small swampy island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, an engineering marvel born strictly from necessity. What started as a few huts on mud transformed into a metropolitan giant. At its peak, the population exceeded 200,000 inhabitants, making it larger than contemporary London or Paris. It was a city of order and beauty, boasting sophisticated grid systems of canals and 3 massive causeways that connected the island to the world beyond. Connecting an island city to the mainland required engineering genius. The Aztecs constructed massive causeways using rocks and earth tightly packed between wooden pilings. These weren't just roads. They were lifelines that allowed the rapid movement of trade goods and troops across the water. But the Aztecs were also strategists. They incorporated a brilliant defensive design into these bridges, removable drawbridge planks. In times of war, these planks could be lifted, turning the city into an impenetrable fortress floating on the water. Living on a lake presented a deadly challenge: flooding. The salty waters of Lake Texcoco constantly threatened to contaminate the fresh water supplies essential for drinking and agriculture. The solution was the dike of Nezahualcóyotl. This monumental engineering project stretched 10 miles across the lake. It served as a massive gatekeeper, physically separating the fresh spring water from the brackish salt water and allowing the Aztecs to control seasonal water levels to prevent catastrophic floods. With limited land, how do you feed 200,000 people? You create land. The Aztecs developed chinampas, or floating gardens. These were artificial islands created by weaving reeds together and piling nutrient-rich mud from the lake bottom on top. It was a revolutionary farming technique. These plots were extraordinarily fertile, yielding up to 7 harvests annually. They produced an abundance of maize, beans, squash, tomatoes, and chilies, ensuring that the empire never went hungry. While the chinampas fed the people, thirst was another enemy. The salty island lacked potable water. To sustain the growing population, Aztec engineers built a sophisticated water management system. A 3-mile-long aqueduct carried crystal-clear water from the Chapultepec Springs directly into the city. Its design featured a twin-pipe innovation. There were 2 channels. Only one was active at a time, so that the other could be closed off for cleaning and maintenance without ever cutting off the city's water supply. Aztec society was as structured as their city grid. At the very top sat the Tlatoani, the divine emperor. He wielded absolute power and was revered not just as a king, but as a living deity among his people. Below him were the Pipiltin, the nobles who served as generals and priests. The backbone of the empire were the Masehualtin, the commoners and artisans. At the bottom were the slaves and serfs. Yet even this bottom tier was unique. Slavery was often non-hereditary, and people could buy their freedom. This hierarchy was held together by a profound religious worldview. The Aztec cosmos was governed by powerful deities. Huitzilopochtli was the sun and war god, a demanding force who required human blood to rise each day and sustain cosmic order. Tlaloc was the rain deity, vital for agricultural prosperity in the valley. And then there was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. He was the god of learning, books, and the advancement of civilization, a figure who would play a tragic role in the empire's future. We cannot speak of the Aztecs without addressing the ritual of sacrifice. To modernize, it is horrific. To the Aztecs, it was a cosmic necessity. They believed the sun would literally cease to move without the fuel of precious water, human blood. Without it, the universe would face catastrophe. But it was also a cold political weapon. Mass sacrifices at the Templo Mayor, often using prisoners of war, served as brutal tools of intimidation, reminding neighboring tribes of the cost of defiance. The Aztec Empire was not just one city. In 1428, a coalition was formed, the Triple Alliance. Tenochtitlan joined forces with the city-states of Texcoco and Tlacopan. Together, they dominated the Valley of Mexico through sheer military might. This became a tribute empire. Conquered provinces were forced to pay heavy taxes in gold, jade, cacao, cotton, and humans. While this enriched the alliance, it created deep, festering resentment among subjugated tribes like the Tlaxcalans, a resentment that would soon prove fatal. The year was 1519. On the Gulf Coast, a new force arrived that would shatter the Aztec world. Hernán Cortés landed with approximately 500 men, 16 horses, and cannon artillery. By numbers, they should have been insignificant against the Aztec legions, but they possessed a military advantage that changed the game. Steel armor, gunpowder weapons, and the terrifying sight of horses, beasts unknown to the Americas, provided a psychological warfare superiority that far outweighed their small numbers. History often turns on coincidence. Ancient Aztec legend foretold that the god Quetzalcoatl would return from the east in the year one reed. By a twist of fate, 1519 was exactly the year one reed in the Aztec calendar. Emperor Montezuma II was paralyzed by this prophecy. Was Cortés a god? This hesitation was costly. Instead of attacking, Montezuma sent gifts of gold, hoping the strangers would leave. Tragically, the gold only inflamed the Spanish greed for treasure. Cortés was cunning. He realized the Aztec Empire was fractured. He employed diplomacy and force to recruit massive indigenous armies, particularly the Tlaxcalans, who hated Aztec domination. As they marched toward the capital, they sent a brutal message. At the holy city of Cholula, Spanish forces slaughtered thousands in a massacre designed to demonstrate their ruthless power. By November 1519, the path to Tenochtitlan was open. It was a meeting of two worlds. Montezuma welcomed Cortés into his magnificent city. The Spanish conquistadors were stunned, marveling at Tenochtitlan's unprecedented cleanliness and scale. But the wonder did not last. The Spanish were horrified by the human sacrifice rituals they witnessed. Tensions skyrocketed. In a bold and treacherous move, Cortés took Emperor Montezuma hostage within his own palace walls, turning the divine ruler into a puppet. The breaking point came in June 1520. After Spanish forces massacred Aztec nobles during a religious ceremony, the city erupted in revolt. In the ensuing chaos, Montezuma was killed. The Spanish realized they were trapped. They attempted a desperate nocturnal escape across the causeways, an event known as La Noche Triste, or the Night of Sorrows. Laden with stolen gold, many Spaniards drowned in the canals or were captured. It was a disastrous defeat for Cortés. The Aztecs had won the battle, but they were losing to an enemy they couldn't see. While Cortés regrouped, smallpox swept through Tenochtitlan. The indigenous population had no immunity. The plague devastated the city, killing approximately 40% of the people. It created a massive leadership crisis. Montezuma's successor, Cuitlahuac, died from the disease, completely crippling the Aztec chain of command and morale at the immense moment they needed it most. In 1521, Cortés returned. This time, he brought thousands of native allies and a new strategy, a naval blockade. He constructed brigantines, warships, to control the lake and sever the city's food supplies. The ensuing siege was brutal, lasting 93 days. Inside the crumbling walls, the defenders starved while disease continued to ravage the trapped population. The city on the lake was slowly dying. The end came on August 13, 1521. Cuauhtémoc, the final Aztec emperor, surrendered to Spanish forces. It marked the end of the mighty Aztec civilization. The destruction was total. The Spanish systematically leveled Tenochtitlan, destroying its temples and palaces. They constructed a new Spanish capital, Mexico City, directly atop the ruins, and over time, the Great Lake Texcoco was drained completely. Today, the ghost of Tenochtitlan still haunts the modern world. Mexico City literally sinks into the soft lakebed foundation of its predecessor. But the Aztec spirit survives. Over 1.5 million people still speak Nahuatl, the language of the empire. Their symbol, the eagle perched on the cactus, flies proudly on the Mexican flag. Out of the ashes of conquest, a unique mestizo culture emerged, blending Spanish influence with indigenous traditions to create the vibrant identity of modern Mexico.